Chapter 192. It's been hours since Shiki's death. Shiki's people had decided if they would stay or leave. Most chose to stay, joined the side of an emperor, but a small portion of people decided to leave and start life anew. I didn't have any problems with that. But I smiled. Before you leave, I would like to hold a small banquet to wish you your new life. The people gathered in front of me looked confused, some suspicious even. As it stands, I respect people's will. Since you guys want to leave, I would like to feed you one last time to ascertain that I would never go after you guys. I hope you will wait a while for the food. There was a slight hesitation, but after a while everyone nodded. Why would they not? They were hungry and tired, and some even believed they would be hunted down, so they needed strength to run from here. And for strength, they needed food. I smiled at this. Then I turned to look at the soldiers from Skypiean, especially the cooks who had arrived at this place a few hours ago, and gave them a nod, implying something. I then turned back around to the crowd and gave them a bright smile. All right then everyone, please enjoy yourselves. Walking out of the crowd, I kept humming softly, as a whistle entered my ear. Wow, you bastard. I chuckled hearing the voice and turned around, giving her a grin. What do you mean, Raki? A sore-jawed Raki scoffed at my smile. You plan to poison them, don't you? She leaned on the wall and looked me in the eyes. Or am I wrong? I shrugged at her scoff. Well yeah, you aren't wrong. I mean they are my enemy, just from the fact that they are the remnants of my old enemy. I shook my head as Raki raised an eyebrow. But you killed the ones who are loyal to Shiki, so if they are alive, that means they aren't supposed to be loyal, right? Raki asked, genuinely confused. I smiled. They aren't loyal to Shiki, yes, but the anger in them was clear. They were angry that I killed their brother, their sisters, their friends, and their sworn comrades. They were very angry, I added. And if you are asking why I didn't kill them outright, since they are really angry with me, it's because every one of the soldiers is angry with me. I can't kill all of them. Now can I? The ones who joined me can be molded later, but the ones who left me can't be molded later since they would be out of my grasp. So I need to take precautions where they can't go against me in the future, and that would be by killing them, I continued. But I can't kill them outright either, because if I do I would seem like a guy who doesn't value his own words. Thus, a bad leader. So I am using a poison that would kill them in a week. Raki blinked at my explanation as realization hit her. That's fair. Not really fair, but logical. She again went through my explanation in her head and nodded. Yeah, I see no problem in what you did. This caused me to laugh out loud. And what if there was a problem in my judgment? I walked closer to her. What if I wanted to kill them just because it would satisfy my bloodlust? I stood in front of her and pinned her against the wall. What if I wanted to kill them because their face annoys me? I stared at her face as her indifferent expression changed to that one of a PFT funny one. Bro, you think I would care? Fuck them in the ass for all I care. She locked her eyes with mine before wrapping her arms around me, still maintaining eye contact. I won't even mind if you kill me, for fun or for actual reasons. I wouldn't mind at all. Well, I had a guess this would be her answer. As nice as I feel, that's a huge weakness of hers. I have no doubt she would go crazy if I suddenly disappeared one day. Raki, I called her as I hugged her back. Don't do anything stupid, ever. General POVHM, it's good that it's not falling or I would have to take action myself. Floating in the air, Amon silently observed the small islands floating in the sky. Merville was pretty huge, and with Shiki dead, it was supposed to fall on the sea like it did in the canon, yet it didn't because Amon didn't want to. Island clouds. Amon had too many island clouds to spare. In this world, there are kilometers upon kilometers of island clouds all around the sky. But since only a small part of them is inhabited, Amon can use them as he pleases. To not make the islands of Merville fall, what he did was control the electromagnetic bond of the clouds and moving them here, a few days before the mission started. Currently, all of the small rocky islands were floating above chunks of clouds, even without Shiki's powers. Still, Amon frowned. This is too risky. The clouds won't be able to hold the islands for long. They weigh a lot. I should probably start moving them to the white sea. Raising his hand, Amon focused on the electromagnetic bond of the clouds, commanding them to move and directed them towards where he wanted. Amon growled, seeing the islands moving ever so slowly. It would take years. So slow. Wow, the island is moving. Brother must be moving it, orc. Raki groaned as her face morphed as if she had just bit a lemon. Fuck me. She rubbed her jaw that was hurting badly. Shiki punched her face quite a few times, and her teeth were broken again and again. They have healed, yes, but the pain hasn't vanished fully. In fact, they hurt a lot. She went to Amon for this exact reason, to ask where she could find some ice, but he just replied with, how the fuck would I know? Raki shook her head softly as she leaned back on the chair, pushing a bag of ice on her sore spot that she had gotten from Sume in the end. Sigh suddenly. She recalled her conversation with Amon. She knew for a fact she was too much dependent on Amon, but she couldn't bring herself to hate that fact. Amon was her Everything: father, mother, brother, sister, wife, husband, everything one can possibly imagine. She could dream of a day where there would not be a Raki, but she couldn't dream of a day where there won't be an Amon. Was this love or obsession? Frankly, she didn't know nor wanted to know because she didn't care. What mattered most was the fact that she, Raki, was his living for his use. Was she brainwashed by him perhaps? Or was she manipulated like Robin and Hancock? After all, this is not how a normal person should think. Is this? She realizes that. But she knew that wasn't enough to change anything. She was brainwashed. So what? She liked how things were this way, so there was no need to think of eerie and depressing things. She stared at the air and dozed off for a while, thinking about the meaning of her existence, only for a chuckle to leave her lips as she realized, fuck it, it doesn't matter either way. She would just be by his side until he doesn't want her to. She would just be his shadow until he doesn't want her to. Hina perked her ears up, paying complete attention to the Marine officer's words. This is a huge deal. Golden Lion Shiki was one of Pirate King's rivals, someone who was arrested by the combined power of both Garp and Sengoku, and now the Sky Emperor has supposedly soloed him, even killing him in the process. We have underestimated his threat level. Again, Branu, the Marine officer who decides bounties, announced. Everyone in the room, sitting in a row along with Hina, understood what this meant. It was time to increase his bounty again. This is the third time that is going to happen in the past 2 years. Hina could hear the mumbling of the people around her asking who was the person who delivered this news. Hina knew who did it since she was the person who received the victim. It was one of the people who used to work for Shiki but was released by Amon to lead a happy life. But instead, he came to the Marines to set a case in Amon's name, supposedly angry from the fact that his wife was killed by him. One of the Marines sitting on a bench in front raised his hand. But sir, his head is already worth 3.9 billion. Increasing it would make his danger level surpass red hair. Branu snapped his finger. You guys are experienced high-ranking officers, so you have a good idea about the true power of the monster that is Redhead Shanks. Unlike how the mass believes, it's not Kaido or Whitebeard who is individually the strongest emperor, it's Redhead Shanks, instead. While everyone nodded, one of the newbies raised his hand. But sir, if he is that strong, why does he have the second lowest bounty among the emperors? Branu nodded. That's the point. As strong as he isn't that much of a threat to the government since he is a pretty laid-back man. And there is also the fact that he has the smallest crew among all the emperors. That lessens his danger to him. But this guy, Amon, doesn't lay back. He grabs what he wants. In the past 2 years, he has expanded his territory throughout most of Paradise and even some parts of New World. His crew even surpasses the Golden Lion Shiki in his prime. Not only that, all of his sins are strong enough to be Emperor Commander level, and there are 6 of them. Branu took a deep breath. He is currently the most threatening force in this world, just after Monkey D. Dragon. Hina sharply nodded in agreement. Monkey D. Dragon doesn't count since he is a mysterious man. There were cases where Marines had discovered his base of operation, but by the time they reached there, not only was he not present there, even the island he was supposed to be on was missing. How the fuck are they supposed to find a man who can supposedly teleport on a large scale? Hina raised her hand and commented. A few days ago, we also discovered his connection with Big Mom. That also increases his danger level. I agree that his bounty needs an upgrade. Hearing Hina's words, everyone around started to whisper. Hina was a newly promoted vice admiral, someone who has proved her worth by a large margin. Her voice weighed a lot, so the Marines started to take her words seriously. Surely if the rumors were true, Big Mom might let one of her children marry one of Amon's people. That way, their relationship would grow and they would be an unstoppable force. This alone is enough to push his bounty above the 4 billion mark. After that, it was decided. Amon is going to get an increase in his bounty. Hina smirked in her mind. Mission accomplished, just like her master had asked her for. He sometimes wondered if it would have been better if Raki had Kaido's cloud creation power instead of her light manipulation. But since she doesn't, he has to do all the work. Still, he didn't mind it much. This was considered training too. That's the reason why he didn't just simply cut a door to the door dimension and teleported with the islands at once. It's been 2 days since Amon started to move the islands of Merville towards Skypiean. The people who wanted to leave left already, and the people who wanted to stay are here. Meanwhile, after days and nights of hard work, Amon has finally reached his destination, the Kingdom of Sky, Skypiean, the country that has the Golden City as its capital. Amon had dropped the islands on the White Sea, and now they are floating there peacefully. The first thing he did after that was to gather every one of his new soldiers in one place. He looked at the crowd gathered under him as he floated a few meters up in the sky. Everyone, sorry to call you out again. This might not be important for some, but many people are waiting for this announcement. Amon looked at the people. While most looked normal, some had feathers in their arms. They are the locals of Merville. I am aware that some of you are not from the Blue Sea, rather from that small village not far from here. I am also aware that you are eager to see your family. If you are worried about them, don't be. I would ensure their safety. You can meet them and spend time with them. I would ensure no animals attack your families. So rest assured, he continued. Other than that, I also have to appoint your group a leader, which will take a few days. So you guys can take a break for now. Soon, people with wings would come here. Don't be scared of them. They would help build some things. I plan to build better living quarters, many supermarkets, multiple research labs, some schools and hospitals for the people of the village and yourselves. I wish you'd enjoy your time working for me, and if you have any questions, then come meet me anytime. He looked at the impatient and grateful expression of the people below. He slimed, that's all. Now you can go and meet your families. The sky was clear as always, but for the first time in many years, the people below him felt in peace, secure, and he could feel each of those emotions. Isa was done training with Shiley for today. Her teacher had gone back to her room, and she was left with a numb feeling on her head. Using observation hockey to try and predict the far future is hard, very hard. And up until now, she had made no progress at all. Isa's eyebrows twitched as she sensed a crowd entering her range of observation. Her range wasn't something extraordinary, it was her weak point even, but she could still recognize the presence that stood out within the crowd. It was her brother's presence. In no way she wouldn't recognize the voice that screams, "I am Theone," all the time. Isa tilted her head. Did he bring the fruit that he wants to feed me? In truth, Isa was confused. Why did he want her to become a sin? Isa wasn't dumb enough to believe that Amon didn't know about her small shenanigan with Raki. It would be absurd for him to not notice it. Of course, this question didn't appear out of the blue, as what confused her was the fact that Amon never treated her differently. He still treated her as a loving brother should. Was she wrong about him? Was the anger, sadness, coldness she sensed deep within him just an imagination of her? From the warmth she felt every time she was around him, that might actually be the case. Single quotes ... I don't even understand anything anymore. Asia sighed. She sat up from the table and prepared to go to her room. She was already on the top of Giant Jack, so her room wasn't that far since Amon had always kept her with him safe. BSIT it was at this moment, as a blue light flashed in front of her eyes and the figure of her older brother appeared in front of her. Yo, guess who's back? With a brilliant smile on his face, Amon grabbed her cheeks and caressed them aggressively, causing her to laugh out. She could feel it. A slight buzz in her cheeks. Her brother must be caressing her cheeks with his hands coated in electricity. She felt her body jolt as she started to laugh, her nervous system failing her. Brother, it tickles, haha, stop. She somehow grabbed his hands and pushed them away, making him bring upon a sad face. Isa shook her head dismissively. Sigh, you're back, already. So, what do you want from me? Her older brother didn't answer. He rather slipped his hands in his side bag and took out a devil fruit. I got a gift for you. Oh, what is this? Her brother frowned. Don't act like you don't know. It's the devil fruit you've been looking forward to. She flinched. Oh, you already know. Huh. Sorry, I read Big Sis Raki's thoughts accidentally. I didn't mean to. She made an apologetic face, yet looked at the fruit interestedly. So, is this the float fruit? Are you sure you want to give it to me? Her brother released a sheepish smile. Maybe if you kiss me. Amen was interrupted. Forget it. I don't want it anymore, Isa said, making a deadpan face and prepared to turn around, only to be stopped by his hands. Alright, fine. Amen sighed. You can have it either way. This is a good power, although you'd need to train hard to make the islands that I brought float. But I believe when you awaken the fruit, you would become Emperor level easily. Isa's eyes widened as she stared at the fruit with expectation. If awakened, you can even reach Emperor level. He pushed the fruit to Isa and she cautiously grabbed it. If not for the fact that Amon wanted the op-up fruit, he would have eaten the float fruit. It's simply overpowered. It's not simply the power of floating, rather it's telekinesis, and even matter manipulation to some degree. Everything can be done by this fruit. As long as the user had touched something previously, he would have absolute authority over it. Suppose, after eating the fruit, Isa had touched an island and added it under her authority. In that case, she would be able to shatter the island into dust with just her thoughts alone. Theoretically, she can also touch the ocean, and the sea would be under her control. Of course, in both cases, there is the weakness of range and control, but that can be overcome with time. Other than that, this fruit needs creativity and quick thinking to be used at its full potential. Isa's observation hockey would cover that area, so she was one of the better candidates for this fruit. Amon watched as Isa slowly grabbed the fruit and stared at it for a while. So I just bite it. Amon nodded, as she then gulped. Alright, here it goes. Isa brought the fruit closer to her mouth and took a bite. Her face immediately morphed into a sour look. Ugh, this tastes bad. Very bad. Amon laughed at her antics while she forcefully gulped the piece and decided to devour the whole fruit at once. Woohoo, this is awesome. Amon stared at the sky where Isa was flying triumphantly. A huge grin plastered on her face as she enjoyed the wind caressing her hair and cheeks. Hey brother, Isa called as Amon locked eyes with her. Why can't I control the wind even though I am technically touching it? Amon tilted his head hearing her. Maybe because they have very little weight and their molecular bond is very weak. I don't know. Why don't you try making an orb of wind using wind style greater than and then try to control it? Might work. Aisa nodded at him and did what he said. She raised her palm and concentrated wind style on her palm. Wind style, a martial art the AI Seraph had created from the scratches of Fishman karate. Most of Amon's people knew this technique. This was easy to learn but hard to master. Amon was the current best use of this technique since he can control the electron present within the air and manipulate it at will. After that is Sumi, but Aisa might soon surpass her. As the wind ball appeared in Aisa's palm, almost fading as soon as it appeared, Aisa touched the ball as she felt it coming under her control. Fu, releasing a breath, Aisa moved her hand, but the air ball didn't disappear, it simply kept floating. Brother, Aisa called again. Catch. She threw the ball as Amon caught it with his hands, like a solid ball. Oh, interesting. So you can control the air too, as long as it's dense enough. Good to know. Amon clutched the ball with his hand as it broke and vanished. Now try summoning the orb back. Since it's not like the air just vanished completely, it's still in the atmosphere. After blinking twice, Aisa did as he asked as bits of air started appearing in front of her face, soon forming the same ball that Amon had broken. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Amon's face. If she could do all this right now, it's not far-fetched to say that she would reach Emperor level just with this fruit alone after it awakens. But the problem is, Shiki was more than 70 years old. Yet he never managed to awaken the fruit. If he did, he wouldn't need to touch things to activate his ability. So that means Aisa won't be awakening her fruit anytime soon. But time's not a problem. Amon is experimenting on Or's body. On his strangely long lifespan and his special strength, it won't be that long before he unlocks the gene lineage of Or's and renders it to be implantable on himself and his 7 sins. If an average fishman are 10x stronger than an average human, then how strong would an average giant or an average Or's be? Only time shall tell. Aisa Pauve grabbed the water jar and dripped my hand in the water as I heard a click in my head. I felt a connection being created between me and the water. Taking a calculated breath, I commanded my mind as the water floated out of the jar. Oh my god, this is so awesome. Is this how power feels like? So lovely. Just then, I slowly imagined the figure of my mother, Isa. I visualized her face, her legs, her chest, her waist, her complete body in extreme detail. My observation hockey allows me to do so. Soon, the water morphed into herself, a perfect G version of her that was wearing lavish clothing. My mother wears the best, eats the best, gets the best treatment. She didn't ask for any of that. It's just brother Amon seemingly loves her that much. Ignoring the thoughts, I changed the figure of my mother back to the ball of water. I then imagined the constitution of a complex handgun as the water changed again. It took a second since I only recently memorized the constitution of a gun, but it soon formed in the air. After that, with a sheepish grin, I controlled the gun to turn around and meet with brother Amon's head as he waved at me. Brother, I called. He looked at me with curiosity. Dodge. Bam. I mentally pulled the trigger as a blue bullet left the gun, very fast, and almost hit brother. Almost, because a blue energy jumped up from brother's body and made a half-transparent wall of condensed electricity that blocked and even vaporized the bullet. I humped it. HMPH, showing off your powers even though the bullet would have just gone past your Logia body. He just smiled at my remarks, not looking offended at all. That shield brother is strong, stronger than ever. I always wondered why he was so heavily dependent on attacks that were based on his max volt. Electricity has more uses, much more uses. What confuses me more is the fact that brother Amon always reads books and myths about electricity. So it's not as if he isn't aware of the many uses of electricity. Anyway, the good thing is, he is finally focusing on those uses now. Most likely because he has hit another block. When brother Wiper hit a block, he had awakened his fruit. Would brother Amon awaken his too? That would be the thought. Gave me chills. What in the world would the awakening of Gorogoro no Mi be like? Disastrous.